Oh guys, Ray Niblet from Athletics. Thanks for joining me. Um, have any of you actually went to the gym and you've heard people saying that they're aching, the body's all painful, they've got these sore muscles all over the place, and they sort of call it this one thing. They're saying that they've got a build-up of lactic acid, and you think, yeah, I've got lactic acid as well, and things like that, and well, it's not entirely true. And you think lactic acid, of course, it's one of those that actually goes, and no, no. Lactic acid apparently is not a natural thing. Blood lactation does occur. Lactic acid is a different thing altogether. Apparently, they think that it's not a natural thing that occurs in the body, but yeah, our blood, the pH levels within the blood actually increases, which is like an acidic sort of component that actually does that sort of thing within the blood. It builds up the pH levels. I think, well, if it's not lactic acid, then what is it? And it's a good question. And to understand that, we need to understand how the body sort of goes through the bioenergetic processes of breaking down glucose into pyruvate, and how it goes through process to develop and make more energy. Right. So we'll go through that process together, and I'll keep it as simple as possible. So with it, and we've got an hour or two, whatever, we go to the gym, and then when we start training, we have glucose, 6 sugar molecules within one glucose molecule, and then that goes through a process that gets broken down into 2 pyruvates. Those 2 pyruvates consist of 3 sugar levels each. So 2 of the pyruvates each has 3 sugar molecules each. And then it goes through another process. Depending on your intensity that you're doing, aerobic or anaerobically, in this case we're going to go anaerobically, we've got the Cori cycle, which occurs in the liver. And what happens here is that within the Cori cycle, it gets reconverted back into pyruvate, which then gets converted into a phosphocreatine molecule, which then that gets attached to onto ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate. And when that molecule is added on, it converts into ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So when we think of D, we refer to, when we think of T, tri, we refer to as 3. Now, it's referring to 2 phosphate groups or 3 phosphate groups. So it's been used up, it gets converted into energy again, and then it goes into ATP. That cycle is consistently repeated when we do our workouts at high intensity levels. Okay, so what's this got to do with muscle aches, pains? What's it got to do with the hydrogen ion, things like that? And that's a good question again, because when we're working out, there we go, might be bored, pin. Swap that out for a second. All right, it gets converted again in the Cori cycle. But in the pyruvate stage as well, when it gets converted, it gets converted into lactate. It still consists of 3 sugar molecules. But that lactate occurs in the Cori cycle. So the Cori cycle makes that lactate into pyruvate, again, and then gets converted into ATP. Well, first creatine added on to ADP, and then that makes it ATP, if you're following me so far. So when we get lactate, we also get an addition of H plus. H plus refers to, if you can get it, which I'm sure you all can, hydrogen ions. We get hydrogen ions built up within the bloodstream as well as with lactate. So the lactate that attacks or fights off the hydrogen ions, apparently, and the hydrogen ions, that scientists have potentially found out, that it is potentially that is causing the pains within our bodies. So when you get the DOMS or delayed onset muscle soreness, you've got hydrogen ion built up, which is again another waste product as well with the lactate. So we've got those two waste products, but it's the hydrogen ions that's causing the pH levels to rise within our bloodstream. And it's that pH rise from the bloodstream that's potentially causing the aches and pains within our bodies. And so the hydrogen ions, what's that doing? What it's doing is attacking or trying to fight off the hydrogen ions, trying to get rid of it. And when it does, that process goes into a Krebs cycle within the liver, gets converted, into pyruvate again, which then gets converted into a phosphate creatine molecule. Excuse me. And that phosphate creatine molecule attaches onto ADP, adenosine diphosphate, which becomes adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And that is what scientists found that is the hydrogen ions potentially causing these muscle pains and aches. Why it's so sore for like 2-3 days, maybe a little bit longer. And the lactic acid, I'll just feel that then. The blood lactate is fighting off the hydrogen ions, which is then getting converted into ATP. Now, when we throw it to the oxygen, the oxidative level, or the aerobic pathway, if you will, what that happens, it's more or less the same process, really. So we got glucose broken down into two pyruvates, both with 3 glucose levels, and then that goes through what's called the Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle, which occurs not so much in an organ itself, but it is a cell's organ or organelle, mitochondria. That occurs in the mitochondria within cells, and this is where oxygen is being used to help replenish ATP. So that gets converted into the Krebs cycle, which is a very complex cycle, but it happens in the mitochondrial cells, blood cells, red blood cells, things like that. And then when that occurs, that gets converted into another phosphocreatine molecule, where that again goes to ADP, which then becomes ATP. So process is more or less the same, but occurs at different intervals or different areas, things like that, if you will, depending on your intensity. Where this also occurs, so we've got glucose converted into pyruvate, goes through the Krebs cycle or the Covey cycle, and then if it's done in the Covey cycle, sorry, my screen's went blank now. If it's happening in the Cori cycle, the liver it gets converted back into pyruvate and then into ATP. However, in the Krebs cycle, oxygen's combined with it, it's been infused with it. That gets converted, the pyruvate gets converted with the oxygen into phosphocreatine, which then attaches onto ADP and then gets converted to ATP. I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand that. You can look this up yourselves, actually, which I recommend it. I hope I have explained it clearly as possible and as simple as possible. And yeah, look at it yourself and simple Google search things like that would help. So, yeah, excuse me. I hope this helps. I hope you've actually learned something of this. That when people say that, oh, I've got lactic acid, it's causing me pains and, all that, it's like, nope, potentially hydrogen ions associated with myofibrillar tears, sarcoplasmic tears, 2 types of hypertrophy, which makes the muscles bigger, and the buildup of hydrogen ions all accumulated together that is actually causing these muscle pains. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave please leave a like to the video. Leave a comments down beyond that. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Please share the video and thanks for watching. Shane.